Hey everybody, welcome to Friday Follow-Up for March 22nd to 26th. I have spent most of the week living in the future. I kind of often quote William Gibson of the future is here, it's just not evenly distributed. And I really look at what I've been doing throughout my career, but especially in the last 10 years as an entrepreneur, is figuring out how to get a more even distribution of that future, to take the technology that's on the fringe, on the edge of being early adopted, early created by tech entrepreneurs typically, and bringing that into businesses first and foremost to kind of drive that business adoption, and get kind of the B2B aspect of that, and that usually cascades out to users and consumers in all kinds of fun and great ways that we all get to absorb the benefits of. And really what the key benefit is, whatever the technology does, it's achieving a fairly straightforward outcome if it's doing a job better, faster, and cheaper. Where filing your taxes gets done better, faster, and cheaper by tax software than by an accountant or by yourself. So all of these jobs to be done in the Clayton Christensen type mindset are all being eaten. As Mark Andreessen has pointed to, software is eating the world. Well, more correctly, it's eating jobs to be done and absorbing them into code. So that if this, then that statements are just being turned into software processes that would have been done by humans with pens and papers and communication and handshakes and whatever what happened between the humans is just being done in software programs. So software engineers are the space that are growing. Back office administrators are reducing. All in that process. So it's not so much robots eating up manual labor, it's software robots eating up office labor. And this is going further and further up the white collar stack. And I really think, even as a salesperson, as I kind of live in the future, that the decentralized market, decentralized applications, the things that can be built in Ethereum and Polkadot and Solana and the different kind of DeFi protocols, and the value that can be captured in Bitcoin, in conjunction with all the stuff that we're seeing from traditional technology. It's funny to say traditional technology, but the stuff that's coming out of enterprise software that's absorbing more and more of the jobs to be done inside of companies, or jobs to be done by consumers relative to the business they want to interface with, whether those businesses are governments, stores, whatever they are. That there's the labor that got that done is being absorbed by software. And the really interesting part and challenging part about what decentralized versions of these applications are going to do is the most important part of the software that are decentralized protocols is that they're much more specifically trustware. They're intermediating the trust is happening within the software code. And if you look at that from the example of my software business is going to do business with your business, that's intermediated by humans. Software is going to do a bunch of work that's probably got, is achieving some better, faster, cheaper function on side of your side, which is going to eliminate, give people back a bunch of time, eliminate some labor, and accelerate some terms of velocity on the other side of the business from a consumer perspective. That's why they're buying the SaaS software or whatever it's going to do. It gets done by business people. Why should I trust your software to do that job? How do I understand the value that my software is going to do for your business? That gets intermediated by salespeople and business people going back and forth and trying to structure a deal, engineer how that's going to work. And then once you've kind of gone through the process of this is the value I want, this is the value I got, and we got to match, the lawyers show up and make sure that we document all that in a way that ensures over time there's real specific alignment on how that's going to go down and happen, and some remedies if it's not happening the way we all expect to happen, and the ability to kind of create a trust framework for doing the business to business. And then underneath that, you got accountants trying to track and make sure that are we paying for? Are we getting what we paid for? Are we paying for it correctly? Are they paying us for what we're delivering them? Are they paying us correctly, and lining all that stuff up? And then there's delivery people and consuming people on each side that are all kind of verifying that this is all happening. And then there's a whole administration on each side to ensure that this is all aligned. It's a lot of human capital, a lot. Less and less every day, as SaaS is a really great example of, but still there. And when we do this in decentralized, essentially each side just needs to have someone technically capable of validating is the code that's bridging the value that's going between our two organizations. Will it do what we expect it to do the transaction consistently every single time the way we expect it to go through? And can I look at it and inspect it to verify that it's happening? Have we changed and there's been no change to how the software operates? Do we have consensus around that? All kind of stuff that happens in decentralized protocols massively reduces the trust overhead. Very little need for the lawyers and accountants. How much need do I really need around, the salesperson and the buyer on each side of that equation? I hope that there's a level of that interaction that becomes, how do I understand the value I can get, and how do I make sure that the thing that we have is delivering that value and intermediating that in a way? So becoming that Sherpa, like that bridge I'm trying to discover, is that really a role that's sustainable, both from, can I make a living doing that and figuring out how to work with a decentralized protocol in order to get their interactions? It might be from decentralized protocol to decentralized protocols, because at some point we're going to have humans do some level of talking more than what the code can do. But we're still at that code level. So it's a really huge challenge to figure out, where does all that human capital go? How does it repurpose itself? Because I even see it as like, one of the things we always point to in the AI is going to eat everything, or enterprise software, SaaS software is chewing up an enormous amount of this labor, which is all true. Well, there always have to be salespeople that have to go do the interaction. Like, there's a level of like technology gets sold, not necessarily consumed and selected, gets sold. There's solid evidence in the future that I can see in this decentralized space that might not be true. It's real obvious that the accountants and lawyers need a whole lot less of them, and they have a very different job description and different value proposition in that future world where the code is trusted to administrate all that stuff. I think salespeople are just as are vulnerable in a similar way of, maybe we still have value. It's going to be different in how we execute it. And where does all that human capital go? Because even like there's only so many, like we're short developers in both sides of that stack. Whether you want to talk about Web 3 or Web 2, there's not enough developers who know what they're doing at a deep enough level to build this stuff. We can't all train ourselves and aren't predisposed to being trained into writing code, much less good code that works. And that's a smaller and smaller stack as the good coders build abstraction layers that solve a whole whack of work that would have taken a lot more engineers that click on the button. So they're doing it themselves to their credit. So what are we going to do? Star Trek's the even more interesting show. Exploring space is a big job for a lot of people. We haven't gotten there yet. So this intermediary phase that we're in as we transition out of the centralized economy into the decentralized economy, which is going to probably take the rest of my career to get any meaningful traction on, even though things move really fast. The next 20 years are going to be hugely chaotic, and movement of change around that, and displacement of the types of jobs and work that people do and how value gets moved around and created. It's really fascinating, scary, because it's like once you see it, you're like, oh, I'm in it. I'm like, I don't know. I have to figure out what job I can do. How can I get remunerated to pay my bills? Because I haven't accumulated enough of these assets to sit on them and let the number go up and use those assets as collateral in order to pay my bills. I got to earn it. And the only way I see to earn it in these decentralized ecosystems right now is like, you got to write code. So how do these business layers, how do these human layers layer on top is like a really fascinating question that I'm going to spend a lot of time on and hope to share more on. We'll speak to you on Monday. Have a great weekend.